All right, let's do this. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy Pope, the husband to the illustrious Shanielle Pope. And this is the story of how God prepared me to get married. And I don't know what to say. So, Lord, please tell me what to say. I've waited too long to record this, and so I'm going to get it done one way or another. God's preparation for us to get married, it doesn't look like preparing to get married. It looks like obedience to God. Chanel's strengths and weaknesses complement mine so absolutely perfectly that it's shocking. But if God had woken us up to each other 6 months before he did, in September for me and October for her, it would have been disastrous. God has put vision in me around marriage for a long time. I found Google Docs that go back as far as 2012 and many journal entries. Shanielle and I are both journalers, and we both enjoy sharing around that. But 2012, that's 13 years of knowing some of the things that I wanted in a marriage. And there was a lot of hesitancy around writing down too much about my future wife. I didn't feel like I really had the right to decide. I felt like maybe it would be dangerous, like I'd be painting myself into a mental corner if I tried to figure out what I wanted in a wife. I would jokingly tell people that the song by Cake, Short Skirt, Long Jacket, she's got the moves and the right allocations. She's touring the facilities and taking up slack. It's this. The song is an image of this hyper competent corporate lady, and kind of a hard ass. And that was a very sexy idea to me, but God knew that I would drive that kind of person crazy with ADHD. And all of you that know Shanielle know that she is hyper competent, and she is very experienced in project and portfolio management and business process analysis and client journey expertise and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like that joke slash half prayer wasn't answered, but there's so much more to her as well. This is supposed to be about my journey in preparation. God has healed me of so many damaging beliefs, habits, ways of acting, ways of relating that never would have worked. Just ask any of my 5 former ops managers in companies that I founded and how unpleasant I was to work for as a CEO. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying to be kind. It was because I didn't know what I was doing. And I've since learned that a lot of this was due to hang-ups and not knowing how to communicate. So God used a lot of people in my life to prepare me on how to communicate kindly, how to communicate in non-ADHD ways, how to communicate in effective ways that get things done. And eventually, he grew me into a business coach. And then he puts me with the most gorgeous woman who gets these principles, and all of my coaching experience and all of my business experience, she despises following these principles in the way that I do it, and so I can't bring any of it to bear. And so she is very difficult to predict for me. I pride myself on being good at reading people. I guess that's what this really is a story of. It's a story of pride and God tearing out pride, hopefully by the roots, in various areas of my life so that I can be ready for this most important relationship of my life, second to God himself, or third if you count self as a different relationship. Having to be willing to throw away not just methods, not just cherished processes or things, but cherished ways of thinking and cherished pieces of my identity. It's been the biggest shift I've ever had to make. I'm 43 years old, or almost 44, and being alone this long, I've never been in a long-term relationship, medium term, maybe 5, 6, 8 months, something like that. 8 months. That's the longest relationship I've ever been in. And there was never like a live-in girlfriend or anything, and so I never had to put up with someone in all the ways that you have to put up with a wife, that a wife has to put up with a husband. And so learning to lead in a very new way has been a very humbling experience. Hoping against hope that I can lead in the ways that she needs to be led has been a very humbling experience as well. She talks about, well, we both do, sanctification a lot, and the sanctification process that God uses marriage to hugely encourage, to hugely accelerate. And there are a lot of pieces to that sanctification. Some of them, I think, some of the ones that are most obvious, oh, well, you can't get away from someone else's perception of the problem anymore, so now you have to deal with it. That's an obvious one, and it's one that gets joked about a lot. Kind of an iron sharpens iron sort of part of the sanctification process. But going through things together, going through difficult things together, praying together lots, studying God's Word together, looking back at His promises. We're just doing that today, looking back at His promises and how He's fulfilled them letter for letter. Every time He's made a promise to either of us or both of us together and used the other to confirm it, he has fulfilled it not just in a broad interpretation, but in an exact, like, total fulfillment. So that's another piece of it, is being able to trust God more and becoming more intimate with God because of our marriage. Another piece is, I'm talking about in the marriage, I'm going to keep on, of the sanctification process, is we call it spotter sniper, or I've got your back. We want to be able to see each other's flaws and mistakes and sins and bad habits and shortcomings, and help defend each other against those. Our relationship counselor, Lee Henderson, has said many times things like, it's not you and me, because that quickly becomes you versus me. It's us. Us. And so being able to fight for the marriage instead of fighting inside the marriage, that's a really big deal. And anytime there's the urge to fight, realize this is a fight for the marriage. It's a fight for unity. It's a fight from victory that Christ gave us on the cross. So it's a peacekeeping action rather than retaking ground. He's already done all that. But it's a fight to preserve and to grow the unity of this marriage. And God used Lee to prepare both of us going into this. But there were a lot of things that I needed to understand, to believe, and to be rid of in order to be able to accept the steps that he gave us explicitly toward the end, just before we got married in February. And very few of those looked like becoming a better romantic partner, or here's how to communicate with your significant other, or here's a skill set that's good in marriage. Like, none of it was marriage related. It was all obedience related, and it shows up in other ways later on. It was all stripping away, for me, a tremendous amount of trust issues, and self-inflicted business PTSD, things like that. But things that I never would have been able to connect the dots beforehand and see how they connected to being ready for marriage. I can only see it in hindsight. Hindsight's 2020. So I don't know that the details are important. They aren't coming to mind right now. But there were an awful lot of them. And Shanielle and I have been shocked over and over and over at our prayers for each other and for the relationship being fulfilled remarkably, fully, pressed down, shaken together, overflowing. These promised fulfillments have poured into our laps. God has been so abundant with us, and he's been doing it all along. And now he's teaching us to obey faster. And that's a very humbling thing as well. I have a feeling the humbling things are not going to go away. But just knowing that he put us together the instant we were ready. And the instant we were ready to be stretched in that way and not strained and injured. It wasn't the instant we were totally comfortably ready. It was the instant we were ready to be able to stretch that far, to be able to lift that kind of weight, etc. Uh, and it's been joy. It's been it's been so deeply fulfilling, and it has been since the beginning of the courtship. We never had a dating period. We knew each other for about 2 years, and then we started really exploring, and within 3 days we were straight up courting. I knew within a week or two that she was the one. If God didn't pump the brakes and tell me stop, that I was going to marry this wonderful woman. And that's a piece I need to mention. I have never felt the peace and the joy and the excitement and the security in a relationship like I felt with her. There was always the question of, could I do better? And it wasn't even from a selfish place. It was, am I settling? There was always that question of, am I settling? Would I be settling with this girl or that girl? And the answer always came out to some version of maybe, probably. And I have never had an instant of hesitation or an instant of a question of would I be settling with Shanielle. And God gave me some like Gideon level confirmation, not with fleece external things there. I mean, he did in our journals, tons and tons and tons. I don't think we ever counted them explicitly, but I remember getting the impression there were around 6 dozen, like around 70 different confirmation points. Like, oh wow, she fulfills everything about this. And the same kind of thing for her. Jeremy fulfills everything about this. And like we will mature into a lot of pieces of those things, but we can see it. We might be young on a specific journey that we've been praying for each other for, or that we've been hoping for. She was a lot better about praying for me than I was about praying for her. I had to really get vision a little more about who she was, and to kind of relax around being willing to have that vision. And to my friend Monica got me to write what we call the letter to Amy. I don't know, 2-3 years before September of 2024. And in it, I wrote a letter from my future self to the past wife, just telling her about the last 3 years. And that was remarkable in being able to get me into a headspace where I could picture life together a lot more easily. Because I did realize for a long time that I felt very comfortable not crafting her. She's a person. I don't get to do that. But crafting the relationship. And it was a powerful tool. So thank you, Monica Bozinov. The readiness looked like obedience. And the fulfillment was peace. I am not a jump up and down, clap kind of guy. Shanielle and I joke about pom-poms when it's time to celebrate things, because I'm not very good at celebrating accomplishments. And so it wasn't about like being overwhelmed by giddiness. there have been plenty of moments like that. But the foundation of peace was the thing that had been missing all along, and rightly so. And that was what God used to show me, oh, this is her. I tested it. The Gideon moment that I mentioned before was me going, okay, well, if this is really a piece from God, then I won't be able to get myself worked up. And so I started asking very intentionally for maybe a couple of days, asking myself, Jeremy, what are you doing? Like, what is this? You are moving so fast. Kind of giving myself all the "are you crazy" sort of cautionary questions that a well-meaning friend might ask, or that my brain might have asked me in the past and was curiously silent on now. But just very intentionally asking that kind of question, using that kind of "are you crazy" sort of mindset and tone of voice, it went zero distance. I could not get anywhere with that kind of thinking.
This is a reminder. Check the fridge and garbage.
There's some of my household reminders going off. But I couldn't get anywhere with it, not for a second. Not literally, I could not feel anxiety for 10 seconds. Not during the morning when I'm fresh, not in the late night when I tend to be very tired and grumpy about things, or anxious about things, even if I stay up too late. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m., let me tell you. But I couldn't go anywhere with it. And I wasn't really trying to test God exactly. I was more testing myself to try and figure out, okay, where's this from? Is this feeling of peace from me or from God? Because I know I can break it if it's from me. And I couldn't break it. And it was from God. And He's proven it right over and over and over. He has proven every promise fully. And He continues to do so. And being with her has helped me realize even more than alone, and thank God for her. I thank Him every day for her. That I can't outwant God. God wants things for me that are so much better than what I want for me. She is so much better for me than what I could imagine and therefore want. And God knew more and wanted more for me, and got her ready for me, and got me ready for her, and then put us together just as soon as we were ready for the stretch. And here we are, happily, eternally after. We've had plenty of moments, but, relationships are work. And people have asked me about honeymoons and things like that. And one time a joke led into me asking, like, what is a honeymoon period? And they said, oh, like, the first few months or about the first year, about where you can just easily bend for each other, and you can like prefer each other really easily, and where the infatuation just kind of love covers a multitude of sins. Eros covers a multitude of sins, just as agape covers a multitude of sins. And I realized we had 3 days of that before reality set in. We never really expected that, but we only had about 3 days of that type of thing before it became work. And we had been praying that God would grow us together as quickly as possible. And he certainly has done that. But God wanting things for me so much better than I could imagine wanting that's been a theme for me for a couple of years. But it's made me trust him in a way that I never could before, and my relationship with her now is immense proof to me. Just continuing on the proof after proof after proof that God's not an evil genie who is waiting for me to word a prayer wrong. And it's made me very willing to pray what people jokingly refer to as dangerous prayers. Specifically, Lord, help me want what you want. I want to want what you want me to want. I'm not scared of the idea of having my desires changed anymore. I want my desires to conform to his desires. And I want to die to the desires that do not. And that's been the journey of getting ready. It's not one of discipline, because I'm not a particularly disciplined guy. And it's certainly not one of great habits. It's one of asking God to conform my desires to his desires, and him growing me through that process and stripping away things that he didn't want for me, and being okay with that. And that's what got me ready for Shenya. All right.